Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our last and final session of this ADManager Plus workshop series. Thank you all for attending this workshop series. So, I hope that you gained a lot of information regarding ADManager Plus and how ADManager the product can be used for simplifying your Active Directory tasks like creation, modification, etc. Before starting today's session, let me first introduce myself. I am Naveen and I am part of the ADManager Plus technical team here at AD Solutions. So, like I said, this is the last session of this workshop series, and we'll be looking at one of the most important features of ADManager Plus, that is automating certain AD tasks. So we'll be looking at how we can create an automation. So in this automation, we'll specify certain tasks, and in the specified time period, these tasks will be executed automatically by the product. Before getting started, let me just give a quick recap of what we saw in the first four sessions. So we started off by seeing the user provisioning process. So we saw how we could create users in Active Directory where, without the use of any scripts, and it was all done from a single console. So so all we had was a simple template and a CSV file, and with this we were able to create users in Active Directory. So Active Directory, Exchange, and Office 365. So all of this was done from a single console. And then in our second session, we looked at the management of accounts in Active Directory. So once the accounts have been created, we'll have to perform certain management tasks on them, like modifying the group memberships, moving the user accounts to different OUs, etc. So we looked at how this could be done very easily with the product. And then in session 3, we looked at the reporting functionality of ADManager Plus. So ADManager Plus has a large list of reports. So the reports are categorized based on object type. So you can run the report and get some vital information about our Active Directory accounts. And with this information, we can perform some tasks as well, right from the report. And then in the fourth session, that was yesterday, we looked at how we can delegate certain tasks in the product. So to do this, what we did is we created a role, and that role specified what actions could be performed by the technicians. So after the role was created, we assigned them to a technician. So if the technician logs into the product, they can only perform the actions that are delegated to them. They won't have access to any of the other features. And yesterday we also looked at workflow. So workflow is what we do in workflow is, instead of giving the technicians direct access to Active Directory, we allow them to create requests. So once the request has been raised, some technician, say the administrator, will be able to review this request, and only once the admin thinks the request is okay, will it be executed in Active Directory. Okay, so these are the topics that we looked at in our previous sessions. Now let's look at what we'll be covering in today's session. So we'll be starting off by saying how we can automate the user provisioning process. So we'll be looking at how we can provision user accounts automatically, but with the help. So for doing this, we just have two simple things. We have a template, which we looked at in our first session, as well as the CSV file. So what the product will do is it'll create an automation, and it will look into our CSV file. So if there are any new entries in the CSV file, ADManager Plus will automatically create new user accounts for these entries. So we'll look at this in detail first. So we'll see how we can create a basic template, the CSV file, as well as how it is used in the process of automation. Then we'll look at how we can trace, quarantine, and clean up stale Active Directory accounts. So for this, if when employees leave the organization, they'll have the user account still present in Active Directory. So going through the list of users and deleting the accounts that have so deleting the accounts of users who have left the organization is pretty tedious. So we have to search for individual users and then go and perform the actions. So instead of doing this, we'll look at how this can be done with the help of ADManager Plus. So depending on the organization, we won't just delete the user accounts. So if an employee resigns, there'll be a set of steps that must be followed. So we'll see how we can configure all of these steps with the help of the product, and how these will be executed automatically as well. So in our example, we might have, if a user account is has become inactive, then we might want to disable the account, remove the group memberships, maybe even move the user account to a different organizational unit, and then finally delete it as well. So we'll look at the steps. So depending on the steps, we can create a automation accordingly. So we'll look at how this can be done with the product as well. Then we'll see how we can provide temporary access to business data by modifying the group membership of users. So if we want to give a user access to certain privileged information, then we might add that user to a security group so that they can so that they'll have some elevated permissions in Active Directory, and they can get the data that they require. So this is fine as long as we remember to revoke the permissions after the user has performed the actions. So if we forget to revoke the privileges, this might cause huge security concerns in for us. So we'll look at how this can automatically be done. So we'll be assigning the group membership to the users, and after a certain amount of time, we'll automatically revoke the permissions as well. So now we don't have to worry about accidentally leaving the user in the incorrect group. Okay, then we'll also be looking at how we can. So ADManager Plus has mobile applications. So we have one for iOS as well as for Android. So we'll be looking at how the mobile apps can be used for performing certain Active Directory tasks. So that will be after automation. Excuse me. And then we'll also finally look at some troubleshooting techniques in ADManager Plus. So if you run into certain issues while creating users, then I'll also show some of the troubleshooting techniques that can be performed so that you can resolve the issue on your own. Okay, so now let's get started with today's workshop session. So I have a local installation of ADManager Plus installed, and I'll be using this local installation for performing all the AD tasks. So if you have a local installation in your end, you can use that and perform the tasks as well. But if you do not have the instance of ADManager Plus installed, you can make use of our demo website. So I'll be sharing the demo website link in the chat box now. Okay, so if you check your in chat boxes, you'll see that I've shared the demo site link. You can log into the demo and make use of this. So you can also perform the actions as well. So now let me log into the product and start with today's session. So I log in as the admin. Okay, so at the top we have all of our tabs. So in the first four sessions, we looked at the AD management tab, the AD reports, AD delegation, as well as workflow tab. So these four tabs were covered in our previous sessions. Now in today's session, I'll be looking at the automation tab. So I click on automation. Now, when I click on automation, it lists all the automations that are currently configured in ADManager Plus. So right now, I don't have any automations created. Let's see how we can create a simple automation. So for that, I click on the create new automation link here. So I create new automation. So the first step is to give a name for our automation. So since this is going to be for user creation, I'll name it as automation for user creation. Okay, so then the next step is to have a category, select the appropriate automation category. So we have automations for users, for computers, groups, as well as contacts. So whichever object you want to create the automation for, you just have to select the appropriate object from the list here. So for now, I'm just creating a regular user automation. So I select user automation from the list. And then you have the option to select domains. So again, if you have multiple domains configured in the product, those domains would be listed here, and you can choose the appropriate one. So the automation will be run only for the domain that is selected here. Now the next step is to select our automation task or policy. So we have a list of tasks here. So the listed tasks are for user automations. So if I were to change the automation category to compute automation, then my automation tasks would change as well. So you can see that now it lists disable computers, enable computers, and delete computers. So these vary depending on the automation category that is selected. So I go back to user automation. And so for my first example, I just want to create automation for the user provisioning process. So my task is to create user accounts. So I click on create user accounts. Now the next thing it asks me is to select a template and provide the location of a CSV file. So if I have, so all the templates that are listed, all the templates are listed below. So I just have to choose the appropriate template. So for those of you who did not attend session one, templates are created for auto-populating some of the attribute values. So let's just quickly see how we can create a template. I'll just be very brief. I won't go into much detail. So to create a user creation template, we go to the AD Management tab. So under AD Management, there's a user templates heading here. So under that, I click on user creation templates. And now I just click on create new template. So the top right, I have a link for creating new template. I just select that. Okay, so again, I just give a name for my template. Now, if you scroll down, you'll notice that the template it looks like a basic web form. So I have fields here and some text boxes next to that. So if I want to give a value for my first name, then I can specify this. So whatever values I give in my template, these values will be set when I use this template in user creation. So if you look under logon name, there's a drop down box here. So from here, I can choose the naming format that will be applied for this attribute. So for logon name, currently the naming format will be first name plus last name. What this means is if I give my first name as John and my last name as Smith, then the logon name will automatically be populated as John plus Smith. That is John Smith at domain.com. So at the side, we have an example here. So this is if the first name is John and last name is Smith. Similarly, we can select any naming format for our other naming attributes as well. So a pre-Windows 2000 logon name, we can choose a attribute. Similarly, the other ones as well. So let me just quickly give some values here. Okay, so I can also give some other default values. So if this user is only going to be if this template will be used only for creating users in a certain department, and I want to give a description, like a common description, I can just type in my common description here. So similarly, all the other attributes can be given some default value. So at the end, we have this option, this field for selecting container. So I want to create these users in a certain OU. So I choose that in the template itself. So now it's going to list all the OUs in my Active Directory environment. So from the list, I just choose the appropriate OU and the users will be created in the specified OU. So I just select it and click OK. Now let's move on to the account tab. So in the account tab here, I can give my own password. So I just choose the appropriate, I can either give a random password or I can type one. And I have two other options as well, like leave it as same as the user logon name or leave the password blank. So I don't want to do that. I want to type my own password. So I type a password. Okay, so now I can move on. So similarly, I have some other account related properties here. So whichever property which I require to set, I just check that from the list here. Now, another important attribute here is the member of attribute. So the member of attribute tells me which groups the user will be a member of. So I click on edit, add groups, and I just choose the required groups. So now the user is going to be a member of all the groups that are listed here when this template is used. So similarly, we can also navigate to the other tabs as well and provide values for those attributes. So for now, I'm just going to leave it as with this. I created a very basic template in which I have specified the naming formats for my naming attributes, as well as my container value and the member of attribute as well. And I've also specified a default password. So once you've configured the template, all you have to do is click on save. So once the template is saved, now it can be used in the automation process. So let's see how we can import this template that I created in the automation. So I go back to automation and create new automation. So I give my name again. So automation for user creation. And my automation category is selected as user automation. So my task is to create users. So now from the list of templates, I can choose my template for automation. And then finally, I have to provide a location for my CSV file. So if the CSV file is saved on a shared path, I can provide that shared path here, and it will. Now what will happen is when the automation is run, the product will go and search for a CSV file in this shared folder, and it will create users for all the accounts specified in the CSV file. So for now, I have saved my CSV file in this location, this shared location. So let's just quickly look at a simple CSV file as well. So here I have a CSV file. Now the first name, the first line of the CSV file specifies the LDAP attributes. So what this means is the first line tells me what attributes will be present in the corresponding lines. So the first attribute is going to be the given name. The second will be SN, the third password, and finally the template name. So I'm just going to keep it really simple and not have the template. Okay, so so that's the first line. The first line just tells me what LDAP attributes are going to be present, and from the second line onwards are my user accounts. So each line corresponds to a particular user account. So the first one is going to be John Smith, and the second one is going to be Jane Doe. So the the first name will be John, and the last name will be Smith. So the reason I've given name here instead of first name is given name is the LDAP attribute, LDAP name for first name. So the Active Directory domain controllers will only understand if I give these values in LDAP format. So the first name is given name, the last name is SN, and the password is password. So if you want to mention any other attributes here, then you have to provide the LDAP name on the first line and provide the values on the corresponding lines. So, so like this, we can have any number of users. For now, I just have 2 users in this sample CSV file. So whenever a new employee joins the organization, all you have to do is add a new line and mention the name of your employee. So if you have a third employee that's joining, all you need to do is add these simple details to a CSV file. Now, ADManager Plus will automatically read this CSV file and create the users for us. So we don't have to do any user creation. So we don't have to manually come and enter the attributes. That will be taken care of by the product. So the product will import the CSV file, get the basic attributes. Then after applying the template, it will know what are the values for the other attributes. So in the template, I have already specified the container as well as the group memberships. So all of that will automatically be set by the product itself. I don't have to worry about anything. I just have to create my template, have my CSV file, and every time a new user joins the organization, add a new line to my CSV file. Okay, so that's what we've done here. We've selected our automation task, selected our template, our CSV file location as well. Now, if you look down, there's another checkbox. Select only the appended objects from the file. So what this means is, so right now I have 3 user accounts in my CSV file. So if I save this automation and let it run, it's going to create 3 user accounts for me. Now, if this option is selected, then only if new values are present in my CSV file will ADManager Plus create the accounts. So without modifying the CSV, if the automation is run again, it will say that there are no new users present in the CSV file, so no users were created. But if we uncheck this option, then it will re-import the CSV file and try to create these users again. So that's a really useful feature that we have. So if I select the append objects if I select this checkbox here, then only new users will be created. So only if I add a new line to my CSV file will it actually create the user. If I don't add any lines, then it won't create any users. Okay, and finally, under the tasks to automate, we have the option to implement business workflow as well. So we looked at business workflow in the last session. So if you don't like the idea of the product automatically going to Active Directory and making changes on its own, then you can click on the implement business workflow button here. So if this option is checked, then the product will not create the accounts in Active Directory. It will only raise a request in the product. So once the request has been raised, the technicians can log into the product and verify these requests. So only after the request has been verified will the accounts be created. So you can do that as well. So you can either implement business workflow or not implement it. So that's also so that gives a bit of peace of mind for us. And then finally we can set our execution time. So how often do we want this automation to run? Do we want it to run hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, or we can even set our own custom time period. So I'm going to set it as weekly on Mondays at 11 a.m. So if any say my company has a policy in which new employees can join only on Mondays, then every Monday I can update my CSV file and the automation will automatically run at 11 o'clock and create the user accounts for me. So I don't have to do anything, just add the new details to my CSV file and it'll all be done by the product. And finally, I can also select whether I want to enable notifications. So if I select that, then I can choose who will receive an email when the automation task has been executed. So it's another useful thing as well. So I'm going to leave it unchecked for now and then click save. So now my automation has been created and you can see that here from the list. So it will run every week on Monday at 11 a.m. It will go to this shared location and search for the CSV files, and it will take the new entries from the CSV file and create user accounts with those details. Okay, so that is how we can create a basic automation for the user provisioning process. So like I said, it will automatically be run every Monday. But if I want to run this automation immediately, I can do that as well. So there's this run now link here on the left. So if I click on the run now link, then the automation will be run immediately. So if I click run now, it says the automation has started running. So it has executed successfully, and I just click on the history icon here to view the automation. So it tells me that the task has been executed. And if I click on the link here, I can get some further details on it. So I click on the link. So if I view the view objects, I can see what the status of my automation is. Okay, so now let's move on to our next use case. So what I want to do is, I want to give my user account some elevated group access, and then after a certain amount of time, say 5 days, I want to automatically revoke that permission from the user. So I want to assign a group, and after 5 days, automatically revoke these groups from the user. So let's see how this can be done. So now this can't be done in a single step. So the automations we have created so far can only execute a single step. So we can either only create users or just add group memberships or move users to different OUs. So we can only perform one task at a time. Now let's see how we can schedule successive tasks. So I have a initial task that is done, and after a couple of days, I schedule certain other tasks as well. So in my example, my instantaneous task is going to be adding users to groups, and my successive task will be after 5 days, remove all group memberships for that user. So let's see how this can be done. So for this, on at the left, I have an option. I have the automation policy link. So I click on automation policy. So the automation policy is going to tell the product what tasks must be done and the time interval that should be kept for between these tasks. So let's create a new automation policy here. So I click on new automation policy. Now I just give a name for my policy. So it's going to be group members modification. So I just name it as group membership. So again, now I have to select my automation category. So it's going to be again a user automation. Now I have to choose my instant tasks. So when the automation is run, these are the tasks that will be run immediately. So from the list, I can choose the appropriate task. So I want to add the user to a certain group. So I click on that option and select the groups from the pop-up here. So I add the user to the administrators group and click OK. So in my use case, I just have the single instant task. I'm going to add the user to a group. But if you want, you can also add multiple tasks as well. So if you also want to move the user to a different OU, that can be done as well. So I just choose the move users option here and choose the appropriate organizational unit. But for now, I just have a single instantaneous task. So I leave that here. Now I have to choose my successive tasks. So for this, I have the add successive task link. So I click on the link. Now I can choose what successive tasks must be performed. So after the instantaneous task is done, how many days must the product wait? So after 5 days, I want to revoke all the group memberships. So I choose remove from group and the appropriate option. So clear all existing group memberships. So if I want, I can fine tune this a bit more. So if I want to wait for a certain number of hours instead of days, that can also be done. So if I want to just give access for 5 hours, that can be done. But here I want to give number of days, so I select that. So what we've done is, when the automation is run, we'll automatically assign this, add the users to the administrators group, and after 5 days, automatically remove them from all the groups as well. So they'll be removed from the administrators group. So I click on save. So now my automation policy has been saved, and I can make use of this policy in my automations. So let's look at how this can be done. So for this, I have to create a new automation. So I click on automation and create a new automation. So again, I just give a name, choose my category, and then choose the task. So it's not going to be a task, it's going to be an automation policy. So I choose the appropriate policy from the list. So I click group membership policy. So again, I can implement business workflow if I require, but here I don't want to do that. Now the next option is, how do I know which users are going to be, which users does this automation apply to? So I need a list of users to which to apply this automation. So there are two ways in which this can be done. So I can either run a report. So if you see here, there's from report. So if I select that, I have a list of all the possible reports that can be generated. And from the result of those reports, all of those users will be, this action will be performed on all of those users. So I could generate the recently created users report. So the users who were created in the last 7 days, I would get a list of all of those users, and the automation would be performed only on those users. So I can select any report I require. So if you go through the list, there are multiple reports here. You can choose whichever report suits your need, and based on that, perform the operation. So that's the first way. Now the second way is to mention the users in with the help of a CSV file. So if I click, on the right there's this link called Select More. So if I click on the link, now it asks me for the location of a CSV file. Now again, all I have to do is provide the location of the CSV file, and ADManager Plus will automatically go to this location and search for the CSV files and perform the automation only on the users specified in that CSV file. So we can choose the users in these two ways, either from a report or directly from a CSV file. And now finally, now the steps are the same. I have to choose the execution time. So I keep it as monthly. So on the first of every month, I'm going to run this automation. And finally, click on Save. Save. Okay, so now if this automation is run, it'll go to the CSV file, get the list of users, add those users to the administrators group, and then after 5 days, it will automatically remove the administrators groups for those users. So now so now we no longer have to worry about users having inappropriate permissions in Active Directory. We can set up ADManager Plus in such a way that they are automatically revoked. So all the unnecessary permissions will automatically be revoked. Okay, so that was case 2. Now let's look at use case number 3. So we'll be looking at how we can clean up Active Directory. So if there are lots of inactive user accounts, we'll see how we can clean up these inactive user accounts automatically with the help of ADManager Plus. So like I said, in this example, I won't be just deleting the inactive users. I will get my list of inactive users and then perform a series of tasks on them. So let me explain my scenario here. So I'm going to generate a report to see the users that have been inactive for the past 120 days. So with that list of users, I'm going to immediately move them to a particular organizational unit and revoke all the group memberships. And then after 30 days, I'm going to disable these user accounts. And then after another 40 days, will I delete the user accounts. So let's see how this can be done. So for this, again, I have to create another automation policy. So I click on automation policy and create new automation policy. So I give a name for my automation policy. So user deprovisioning automation. Okay, so now like I said, my first instantaneous, I'm going to generate a report to see which users have been inactive for the past 120 days. And then immediately I will move them to a particular OU. So I move the users. And then, it could be any of the OUs here. So I just choose the OU and click OK. And I also want to revoke all group memberships. So I remove from group and clear all existing group memberships. So this is my instant task. Now my next successive task is after 30 days, I want to disable the users. So I choose 30 days here and then disable users. Okay, so now my task number 2 has been created. Now I have my third task. So I add another successive task. Now here after 45 days, I want to finally delete these users. So I choose the delete users from the list. So now I have my automation policy created successfully. So what happens immediately is the users will be moved to this organizational unit and all the group memberships will be revoked. And then after 30 days, the user accounts will be disabled. And after another 45 days, they will be deleted. Okay, so then I click on save. Now again, to make use of this policy, I go to automation and click on create new automation. So it is for user deprovisioning. Now I select my automation policy from the list here. So user deprovisioning automation. Now I want to generate my report. So I click on from reports and click on select. So I go to my account status reports. Sorry, So I want to generate a list of inactive users. So I go to my logon reports and choose inactive users. So now I choose for how many days must the user have been inactive for it to appear in the report. So I select 120. Now the product will generate a list of all the users who have been inactive for the past 120 days. So I can further filter this report as well. I can either exclude the disabled users or exclude the never logged on users as well. So I'm going to filter the report and then click OK. So now I have the list of objects as well. Now finally, like before, I just set an execution time. So this automation I want to run every day. So I say run daily at say 10 a.m. Okay, so now my automation has been created. All I have to do is click on save. So now every day at 10 a.m., the product will generate a report to see which all users have been inactive for the past 120 days. And with that information, it will perform a series of tasks. So first, it will revoke all the group memberships as well as move the users to a different organizational unit. And then after 30 days, it's going to disable the user accounts. And then after another 45 days, it will finally delete the user accounts. Now this flow can be modified, of course, according to your requirement, so that no limits or number of tasks you can set up in your policy. If you want more to add more tasks, you can always do that as well. Okay, so that was a brief overview of automation in ADManager Plus. So we just looked at user automation. Now the automations can, as we saw, they can be done for groups, contacts, or computers as well. So each object has its own set of tasks that can be automated. So the best way to look at this would be to uh, uh, install the install the product and then create as many automations as you can, and then it'll be easier to understand like the different types of automations that are supported. So if you create new automation policies and apply them, you'll understand how they work and how you can view the details as well. Okay, so that's it for automations in ADManager Plus. Let's look at the mobile applications now. Okay, so like I said, we have both an Android as well as a iOS application. So we can perform some very basic tasks with the help of with the mobile apps. So once you install the app, you'll have the logon screen again. So you can log in with your technician account or as the admin and perform some basic functions. So if you look at the screenshots here, you can see that you have options to like unlock users, disable users, or create users as well. So here we have the option to enable, disable, unlock, reset password, delete, as well as modify group memberships. So these are some of the tasks that are available in the app. You can also create user accounts with the help of the mobile app, as well as you can also view your workflow requests. So if you want to create a request, instead of logging into the product on your workstation, you can just install the app and raise the request from your app itself. or if you want to directly perform the operations, you can do that as well. So there's so this is it's the same for the iOS app as well. So the functionality is pretty much the same. You have this you have similar features, and so this is basically if you don't want to, if you want to perform actions on the go. So if you don't have access to a workstation and but only a mobile phone, then you can perform some AD tasks directly from your mobile phone. Okay, so we've looked at automations in ADManager Plus, as well as how we can use some of the, how the mobile apps can be used as well for Active Directory management. Now let's look at some of the troubleshooting techniques that we have in ADManager Plus. So when you're performing an action, like say for user creation, and you get an error message. So if I go to AD management and create single user, so if I give some, so I try creating a user. Now if it fails, so here I have an error code. So if looking at this error code, sometimes the error message might not give us enough information. So right here, it tells me that the object already exists, so the user could not be created. But say the message is not very clear and you want to further analyze the issue. Well, in that case, this error code that is generated is visible here. So then there's also a link to a troubleshooting document. So if I click on troubleshoot, so now I have a list. So it takes me to the help document here. So all I have to do is search for my error code here. So if any error is generated, I can just go to troubleshoot, and the error is probably listed here as well. So say if my error code is here, this is my error code. I just click on that. And now the help document tells me what the error might have been. So like this, if you find any error in ADManager Plus, you can always go to the troubleshooting document, and that might help you to figure out what's happened. Also, if you have any other questions with the product, so you're not sure how a certain feature works or what the full functionalities of a feature are, then we can always make use of our help document. So at the top right, we have this link called help. So that will open up our help document. So all the features in ADManager Plus are present in the help document. So they're also organized according to the feature. So if you have a doubt in certain management task, then just open the help document and you can navigate to that task. So I go to Active Directory Management, User Management, and Create Users. So under Create Users, if I have a doubt in creating single user, I just click on that link, and it gives me so the help document gives me details about how this feature can be used in ADManager Plus. So if you have any doubts regarding any of the features, definitely check out the help document, and that I'm sure that will help you. But finally, there are some things that we might not be able to find out on our own. So if you still have some doubts, you can always contact our support team. So we have 24/5 support. So during the week, anytime you want, you can always contact our support team with any query related to ADManager Plus. Our support team will be glad to help you with any issues you have with the product. So if you go to support, so we have a dedicated support tab here. So from the support tab, we can either directly initiate a live chat session. So if you click on live chat, then you can always chat with one of our support technicians. Or if you want to email us directly, then you can email us at support@admanagerplus.com, and we'll get back to you with a follow-up and to help you resolve your issues. So also you can also raise feature requests. So if there's some feature in ADManager Plus that you think is missing, then you can always come to the support tab and create a request for a new feature. So any feature that you think must be added to ADManager Plus, and that would greatly benefit you, the users, then you can always request for a feature from here as well. Okay, so that pretty much concludes today's workshop session. Before ending, let me just give a quick overview of what we saw. So we started off by looking at how we can create automations in ADManager Plus. So we create a very basic automation that performed a single task, that is user provisioning. So we had a template as well as a CSV file, and the automation automatically created users from the CSV file in Active Directory for us. So every time we want to create a new user, all we have to do is add the details to the CSV file, and the product will automatically create the users for us. Okay, and then we looked at some other use cases for automation as well. So we saw how we could automatically add users to certain groups, and after a certain time period, how we could automatically revoke these group memberships as well. So the successive task was performed 5 days after the initial task. And then we also looked at how we could clean up Active Directory. So uh, we located our inactive users in Active Directory and then performed a series of steps on them. So initially, we looked at the users that were inactive for the past 120 days. So with that list of users, we first moved them to an OU and removed all the group memberships. And then after 30 days, we disabled the users. And finally, after the another 45 days, we deleted them as well. So in this way, we can configure multiple automation policies and apply them to our users. And then we looked at the iOS and the Android mobile applications. And we also looked at some of the troubleshooting techniques that can be done in ADManager Plus. Okay, now again, before ending today's session, I also want to mention one more thing. So we have our Active Directory seminar in the United States in the month of June. So if you look here at my screen, we have sessions in Boston on June 5th, New Jersey on June 6th, Philadelphia on June 12th, and Orlando on June 13th. So these sessions will be very useful. So these sessions are for all our AD products. They're not only for ADManager Plus, they're for all our AD products, like including AD Audit Plus, AD Self-Service Plus, etc. So if you have any so attending these sessions, you'll definitely be able to learn more about all the products we have to offer. So another added benefit of the seminars is that you'll have direct one-on-one access to our product experts. So after the seminars have concluded, you can have direct one-on-one sessions with our product experts, and you can have direct one-on-one sessions, and you can ask all your doubts. So this will be very useful. So please do register. So if you want to attend the session, I will be sending the link in chat. So if you look at your chat boxes, I have sent the link for registering for the workshop. So just register for the session and do attend. So like I said, there are 4 dates, so and at 4 different locations. So choose the date and location that best suits you and register online, and then you can attend the session as well. So finally, thank you once again for attending the entire workshop series. I do hope that you have gained some useful information with regards to ADManager Plus. And if you have any other doubts or any other questions, you can always contact us. You can just drop us an email and we'll be glad to help you. So before ending today's session, I will still be answering questions. So if you have any doubts, you can ask your questions in the chat box and I will definitely answer them. Or if I'm not able to answer them now, I'll definitely send you an email and answer your questions. So if you have any questions, do ask them now. So once again, thank you all for joining in today's session. You all have a great day. Thank you.